Welcome to the podcast about venture capital, where investors and founders alike can learn how VCs make decisions and reach conviction. Your host is Nick Moran, and this is The Full Ratchet.
Welcome back to The Full Ratchet. On today's special segment of Investor Stories, the investors address trends, sectors, and markets that they think are positioned for outsized returns in the future. This is the segment called What's Next? On today's special segment, we have Steve Blank. Steve, can you talk about sectors or trends that you're bullish on?
This week or last week? I'm spending a good chunk of my time now, or at least I was before the crisis, and I guess I still am, helping the government deal with innovation as well. My class at Stanford ended up being the way the National Science Foundation commercializes all science, and our Department of Defense, and they adopted my class. It's now called I-Corps in 98 universities. And we created a variant of that same class called Hacking for Defense. And then we did one for Hacking for Diplomacy. Now there's going to be this year one for Hacking for Oceans and Climate, basically helping different parts of the government figure out how to adapt and adopt the same techniques we've used in startups to make government more efficient and solve real world problems.
On today's special segment, we have Nikki Pezeshki of Felicis. Nikki, can you talk about sectors or trends that you're bullish on?
Well, I can throw a couple out. I mean, in general, I think that employers are going to take care of their employees more in the future than they do today. I think that as a way to differentiate yourself, to get the best talent, employers will continue having to breed loyalty among their employees, and part of the way to do that is to make their work and personal life as good as possible. The other ones aren't super groundbreaking. Obviously, I think software is continuing the world at a ridiculous pace, and I think that is showing no signs of letting up. I think that in general, coming out of COVID, we're going to see a pretty big generational shift between older SMB owners to younger ones that are a little bit more tech savvy. And so I think SMB software is just a space where, CACs are going to go down because sales conversations are going to be easier with people that are more tech savvy, and LTVs are going to go up because, people are not only going to be, purchasing the software, but they're going to be utilizing it to its full capacity. And then also they'll probably do a bunch of other cool add-on things on top of it, like payments and, marketing and all that good stuff, which will increase LTV. So I think, coming out of COVID, the 55-year-old, SMB owner that kind of like is or 60-year-old SMB owner that was on the verge of retiring, never really used technology, is probably, especially if this lasts a long time, it's probably not going to really be coming back. And the people that are going to fill, that are going to backfill is going to be like the 35-year-old or the 32-year-old that maybe even used to work at a tech company or something like that, and is like, you know what, like I'm going to go out and try my hand at starting a restaurant, or I'm going to try my hand at starting X, and then using technology to really boost their sales and really boost their business in a very similar way that a lot of people did that with e-commerce. And I think that will happen in other SMB areas as well.
On today's special segment, we have Lolita Taub and Jesse Middleton of the Community Fund. Lolita and Jesse, can you talk about sectors or trends that you're bullish on?
I think the biggest thing is that we're finding that enterprises more and more are thinking about how they themselves can build sort of community and I would say build community around not just their topic, but around their user base. So one of the best examples of this would be the early days of Salesforce. They're an enterprise product. They sell multi-million-dollar contracts. That is the business. That is why they're worth as much as they are. However, Mark Benioff and the team spent years developing a strategy which brought the end users together at conferences like Dreamforce, where they bring amazing artists to come and perform, to an entire multi-billion-dollar career industry, which is Salesforce consultants, developers, and engineers. And I think that the trend that we're seeing is more and more businesses that maybe never thought about engaging with the end user in a more holistic manner are shifting to investing in that, just as, like I said, a decade ago, they invested in social. And so while I don't think it's a sector necessarily, it spans across almost every sector. I think the big thing is that we're seeing the need for infrastructure, just as there was a need for something to manage social, to be developed now to manage these communities. And so you've got a Slack community, but when you cross over 1,000 people, what do you do? How do you know if it's working? And so for us, I would say 98% of the decks we've seen in the last year that are B2B businesses at Flybridge all mention the word community. They're not all authentic about it, just to be clear. And it won't work for all founders, and that's okay too. But that trend is happening where they're finally getting on the bandwagon. They're realizing what consumer companies have known for the last 10 years, and they're starting to implement that themselves on the enterprise side.
Yeah, so I come from B2B, and that's my bread and butter. But I do agree with Jesse that B2B is trying to figure it out. And I have seen a trend, and I've been in the space for 15 years now, and there has been this trend of, okay, we can't just be selling to business as much as we think about it in a traditional setting, but there are actually people in the companies of the businesses we're selling to that we need to be considerate of. And what I do see a trend, whether it's in B2B or B2C, is enabling people. It's very simple, but I think this is the trend that I'm starting to see, really pick up. And then also in that same vein, just our companies moving towards this humanness, that's what I call it, direction, where you are actually having people be seen, giving people the tools to feel empowered to create, right? I do really believe in the passion economy that Lee Jin talks about, the creator's economy. I'm a creator. I've become a creator, right? Jesse was telling you, I was making all these graphics, and now I love it. I'm like, I can't stop. I'm going to make this image, and it doesn't look so professional. I get it, Nick. But I love it. And I believe, I during the day, I'm thinking B2B. When I'm looking at companies, I'm looking at B2B, B2C. I don't think it's a time, especially in such early stage, is it so specific to let's just narrow into B2B or B2C or this particular sector. I think you really need to keep your eyes open for what's out there. But the two things that I will go back to is enabling human beings and allowing human beings to be humans. It sounds simple, but I think it's completely underestimated. And the companies I'm seeing really take off are those that are enabling people to do really awesome shit.
I love it. I mean, it's tough when, especially in big enterprise, right? You're in the cog of a massive wheel, massive machine. There's a lot of constraints. Often you feel stifled, right? A lot of the concepts that you guys are talking about are like empowering people. They feel empowered. They create. They contribute, they get rewarded via the community and social proof. I mean, certainly the companies that figure this out, it will be to the benefit of all, right? It's like a huge net benefit to all the constituents and to the creators of those businesses.
You make money too at the end of it, which is lovely. Yeah. Like there's this whole thing where everyone's like, let's not talk about being human, even though that's what everybody wants to actually be. And there's lots of money in it. And people are like, what? But we'll start seeing it. I'm sure we'll see more of it as we see more of Pelotons and Peloton ambassadors like Jesse. This is what it is. You keep coming back. And one of the things we didn't talk about is there's a stickiness to it that is hard to replicate, right? When we're looking at companies, we're always thinking about, okay, but who else can do this and how quickly? Like, okay, that totally just ruins your whole differentiation moat situation. But when you build a community and there's really the sticky factor, that's hard to replicate no matter what you're building. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really totally bullish on this whole human aspect of investing and making us tons of money, outsized returns, and creating generational wealth.
That will conclude this installment of Investor Stories. If you're enjoying the program and would like to see it continue, take a moment and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. Also, if you'd like updates on new content from TFR, as well as the top 10 VC articles every week, go to fullratchet.net and sign up for the newsletter. Okay, that will wrap things up for today. Until next time, over-prepare, choose carefully, and invest confidently. Thanks for joining me.